In the early 1970s, in a modest house nestled within the damp calm of suburban Massachusetts, lived a young man with a voice unlike any other. Brad Delp was not a loud presence. He didn't chase attention or boast of ambition. Yet his voice, pure, soaring, and hauntingly beautiful, would go on to become the soul of one of the most iconic rock bands of its era. Brad was born on June 12, 1951, in Danvers, Massachusetts, to French-Canadian immigrant parents. His childhood was wrapped in silence, as though he moved through the world trying not to leave a trace. And still, even in that quiet, his talent resonated. Neighbors recalled a boy who could sing any tune as if it lived inside him from the very beginning. Then fate, as it often does, changed course. In 1969, guitarist Barry Goudreau introduced Brad to Tom Scholz, a Massachusetts Institute of Technology engineer with a secret dream of revolutionizing rock music. Tom was looking for a vocalist to record a demo. What he found was something far greater. That meeting sparked a creative partnership that would birth a new and electrifying sound, and a band with a simple, defiant name, Boston. But the road to stardom was paved with rejection. They mailed out demo tapes, met with silence, and tried again. Their sound, a fusion of thunderous guitar riffs and Delp's angelic vocals, was too unusual for the industry. Labels didn't know what to make of them. No one believed something extraordinary was brewing. And then, in 1976, a miracle happened. Epic Records gave them a chance. Their debut album, largely recorded in Scholz's basement, became an explosion. More than 17 million copies sold across the country. Their singles poured from radios and car stereos. People didn't just listen to Boston, they felt like part of something new, something electric. And Brad's voice, that earnest, searing tenor, became a soundtrack to an era. Behind the scenes, however, shadows gathered. Success only deepened the rift between the bandmates. Tom was meticulous, obsessed with control. Brad was gentle, sensitive, always yearning for a harmony the group couldn't offer. Tensions grew, arguments flared. Delp began to feel like a stranger in the band he helped build. He was a soft man in a world full of sharp edges. Sometimes, he would just disappear, retreat into himself, into a place without solos or spotlight, where only silence remained. With time, his smile began to mask an unshakable fatigue. Fans knew him as the heart of the band, but few realized how much pain he carried inside. Then came the year 2007, and the news that stopped hearts cold. Brad was gone. He had taken his own life, leaving behind letters and an unsettling mystery. Many pointed fingers at Tom Scholz, but Scholz spoke of something different. A very bad and hurtful incident involving Delp and someone close to him. No one knew what it meant. And the truth, as it turned out, was darker than anyone could have imagined. Still, Brad remains. In that voice, forever etched into vinyl. In the songs that play on long drives, stirring memories of youth. In the hearts of those who saw not just a singer, but a man gentle, lost, and deeply human. His life may not have been a fairy tale, but his music is still magic. When More Than a Feeling first hit the airwaves, the world seemed to hold its breath. It wasn't just a song. It was a surge of freedom, a rush of longing, delivered through a voice that could never be mistaken for anyone else's. That voice belonged to Brad Delp. Boston didn't simply arrive, they exploded. Their self-titled debut album was a bolt from the blue, instantly becoming both a commercial phenomenon and a critical darling, earning a Grammy nomination for Best New Artist. Tracks like Peace of Mind and Foreplay/Long Time became the soundtrack of a generation, echoing through teenage bedrooms filled with restless dreams and across highways where fathers chased something real behind the wheel. And at the center of this sonic storm stood Brad Delp, with a voice forged from sunlight and sorrow. The album remained on the charts for 132 weeks, nearly 3 years. During that time, it felt like Boston might conquer the entire musical world. But stars don't always align the way fans hope. Beneath the surface shimmer, there were cracks, human fragility, clashing visions, and creative tension. When the long-awaited second album, Don't Look Back, finally dropped, It shot straight to the top of the charts and quickly went double platinum. Yet somehow, it didn't quite capture the unrelenting momentum of the debut. Behind the impressive numbers, fault lines were forming. After the tour, Delp, without Boston's founder Tom Scholz, joined some of the bandmates in the studio alongside Sammy Hagar, recording a soulful cover of Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay. Delp's voice, warm and wistful like a summer night's breeze, became the emotional core of the track. But not everyone welcomed this kind of creative independence. Scholz, a perfectionist and the band's visionary force, watched with frustration as Delp explored outside projects while he was denied similar freedom. When Scholz expressed interest in producing Hagar's album, CBS Records responded with a firm demand: drop everything and focus on Boston's third album. The pressure cooker boiled over. Pride, resentment, and artistic defiance collided. Scholz refused to cave. He would not allow labels or former managers to dictate his pace or direction. Meanwhile, tensions inside the band thickened. Guitarist Barry Goudreau, feeling increasingly sidelined, recorded a solo album of his own. He brought Delp along and Delp said yes. The result echoed the signature Boston sound. Melodic, powerful, but tinged with solitude. This move further strained the fragile connection between Delp and Scholz. Something was about to give. While the press circled the band's internal drama, Delp, an intensely private and gentle soul, kept to the shadows. The public knew little about him. Though many believed he had married twice, Delp rarely spoke of his personal life. He kept it exactly that, personal. His music did the talking, and perhaps in that music he felt truly heard. In the story of the band Boston, the name Brad Delp isn't just the name of a vocalist. It's the sound of rock and roll's beating heart, the voice that pulsed through guitar riffs and storms of human emotion. But behind that voice, the one that once captivated millions, there was a man whose own life played out in a much quieter, more tragic key. In the year 1980, Delp married a woman named Mickey. They had 2 children together, and though the marriage ended 16 years later, the families remained closely connected. Mickey's sister, Connie, was married to Barry Goudreau, another member of Boston. Their lives intertwined like the notes of a complicated symphony, where the personal and professional were impossible to separate. And as often happens in such stories, the tighter the bond, the greater the tension. By the time Goudreau decided to record a solo album, tensions in the band were already simmering. Delp contributed vocals, and the record label began promoting the album as a spiritual successor to Boston's sound. That was the final straw for Tom Scholz, the band's founder and guitarist, who felt the project slipping beyond his control. Conflict erupted. Goudreau was out. Delp stayed. But a heavy silence lingered, a silence that usually signals the coming of a storm. Despite internal chaos, work eventually began on Boston's third album. Scholz, a relentless perfectionist, handled nearly all the instrumentation. Delp brought his unmistakable voice to the record. He sang with the same precision and power as always, but something inside him was fading. In the studio, his voice remained clear, but his heart seemed distant, hidden behind a pane of glass. Behind that voice lay fatigue, doubt, and quiet sorrow. The band slowly began to fall apart. One by one, the original members left. First drummer Sib Hashian, then bassist Fran Sheehan. When Third Stage was finally released in 1986, Boston was no longer the band it had once been. By 1989, Delp found himself back in the studio to work on a 4th album. But who even was Boston anymore? Royalty negotiations, lawsuits, endless disputes. Once again, recording came to a halt. And this time, Delp made a decision. He walked away. The announcement stunned fans. Brad Delp, the legendary voice of Boston, was leaving the band to pursue new projects. But in those new projects, there was something familiar, something warm. He formed a band called RTZ with Barry Goudreau. It seemed he was chasing what he had lost in Boston: closeness, inspiration, simplicity. Scholz later asked Delp to return and record vocals for Walk On, but Delp declined. He was deeply committed to RTZ. Scholes then brought in a new lead singer, Fran Cosmo. In 1994, Boston released their first album without Brad Delp as the lead voice. But replacing him proved impossible. That same year, he rejoined the band for a tour, welcomed back like an old friend whose return helped heal old wounds. Though he explored other musical paths, Delp never fully left Boston behind. He recorded new tracks for the Greatest Hits compilation in 1997 and lent his voice to corporate America in 2002. But within him, a different melody was beginning to take over, one that had no space for arguments, lawsuits, or bitterness. He longed for a band without drama, and so he created one not for fame or fortune, but for love. A lifelong fan of the Beatles, Delp formed a tribute band called Beetlejuice. It became his refuge, his joy. He played with them for many years until the very end. That end came suddenly. On March 9, 2007, his fiancée Pamela Sullivan discovered a heartbreaking scene. Delp had connected a hose from his car's exhaust pipe into the house's ventilation. He left several notes, one warning of lethal carbon monoxide levels, another pressed to his chest. On it, he had written just a few words: Mr. Brad Delp, J. Unnamed Solitaire. I am a lonely soul. The official cause of death was carbon monoxide poisoning. He left this world quietly, without spectacle. But behind his passing lay an abyss. In his final message, he took full responsibility, with no excuses, no accusations. And yet, for those who heard his voice, who grew up to the sound of Boston, he remained more than just a frontman. He was the echo of light and sorrow, a song filled with both triumph and heartbreak, and those rare, fleeting chords of real happiness. Like the songs he sang, his story ended on a melancholy note, but it is one that lingers unforgettable. It all began with silence. In the spring of 2007, behind the closed doors of a quiet home in New Hampshire, Brad Delp, the voice that once brought stadiums to their feet, extinguished the light of his own life. What he left behind wasn't just a body, but a heavy, lingering silence that still echoes in the hearts of those who knew him or thought they did. He was engaged. A summer wedding was planned. His fiancée, Pamela Sullivan, had no idea that Brad had been weathering a slow, relentless storm deep within. When his body was found, several letters were discovered nearby, addressed to his children, his ex-wife, Pamela, and an unnamed couple. He had asked that they all be informed. He knew he wasn't coming back. In one of those notes, Brad revealed that he had a plan, a reliable one, a backup just in case carbon monoxide in the car. He wanted it to work the first time. No second chances. After the tragedy, Pamela told the police that Brad had long seemed fragile to her, often sad, withdrawn, trapped in cycles of self-blame. And yet even she, the person closest to him, had no idea just how deep his despair ran. It was as if he had carefully hidden the abyss within, masking it with a gentle smile. He had talked about starting over, leaving the road, getting married. He seemed to be looking ahead, which is exactly why his death felt so contradictory, so sudden, almost unreal. The next morning, Boston's official website faded to black, replaced by a simple musical tribute. No words, no explanations, just sound in place of the man. In August of that year, months after the loss, a tribute concert was held in Boston. Musicians, fans, and friends gathered to say goodbye. But the story didn't end there. The public and press couldn't look away. The Boston Herald published a piece implying that Tom Scholes, the band's guitarist and founder, might have played a role in the tragedy. Scholes sued. What followed was a high-profile legal battle that unearthed more than just court records. It revealed deep fractures at the very heart of a legendary band. David Sykes, a former bassist of Boston, claimed that tension had been simmering between Delp and Scholes for years. First came creative disagreements, then financial disputes. According to friends, Brad felt powerless, trapped in a system where even fighting for fairness seemed futile. He didn't argue. He didn't demand royalties. He just endured. And then came another shock. In the last years of his life, Brad hadn't been living with his fiancée, but with her sister, Meg. Everyone assumed they were just friends. But the truth was far more troubling. In Meg's bedroom, a hidden camera was found. It wasn't a prank. Brad had installed it. He confessed. He apologized. He wrote letters filled with shame and remorse, begging for forgiveness. This wasn't a pain he could hide anymore. It was a pain that had already overtaken him. In those letters, Brad finally opened up. He revealed that Pamela had cheated on him the previous summer, that he had never recovered, that he felt himself fading. Pamela's sister and her partner demanded he tell Pamela the truth. He agreed. He asked for a few days to find the courage. He didn't make it, or maybe he chose not to. He left with guilt, with sorrow, with secrets no one ever fully understood. He bought charcoal grills. He knew what he was doing. He arranged everything just as he had planned. And now all that remains are voices. The music. Those recordings where he still sings, as if he's alive. Where every chorus holds not just a melody, but the cry of a soul no one heard in time. Brad Delp was the voice of a generation. But in the end, his own voice went unanswered.